Welcome to the Arcfluence Podcast, where we talk about how design impacts the way we live, work, and invest. I'm Nick Kirakan, your host, and with me today is my co-host and business partner, Paul Fatkins.
Good afternoon. Although I'm in trouble, I haven't thought of my new 2026 thing yet to do on the podcast.
I'm putting you on the spot, Paul. What is it going to be?
You know what? I think I'm going to throw out the highlight for the day. For me, it was the cappuccino I made earlier.
You know what?
I'm in a good mood because of my cappuccino today.
I don't know if I'm on board with the new thing.
I'm just trying to drop the weather update.
But I will say your cappuccino is killer. I like the taste of coffee. I don't like sweetness. Yeah. So I get my cappuccino. Was mine a cappuccino or was it coffee with just the foam on top?
Yours is kind of different. Yours, since you don't like the creamer mixed in and you're more just straight black coffee person.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I literally strip the foam and only put the foam in for you.
It's just like icing on the cake, you know?
Yeah. It's just enough to give you the hint of a taste.
But I still get that bitter.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
All right. We'll work on that, Paul.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying I made a coffee for me too. And that's the highlight of my day. So
let's get into today's show. For our listeners, this is going to be more of a Columbus market update. We're going to be talking about some real estate, some stuff that impacts design and our amazing city, Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked, I don't know how many times before about how, the whole reason you moved here in the first place, right? How the investment levers are being pulled in the region, and how, you looked at Houston and Portland and all kinds of places.
All over the country.
Yeah, and you ended up in Columbus for a reason. And so, we've talked about this kind of before. So this is more geared towards kind of some recent developments.
So let's talk about the policy. We'll start off with the new ADU policy that's been passed. It was passed, I believe, in late October.
November. Yeah, so November 24th. And then it went into effect 30 days later.
Yeah, I think, okay, great. So it's kind of fortuitous because we had a podcast about this already, which covered most of that information. Danny can link to that podcast so you can dive into that topic a little bit further. Today, I just want to talk about...
and did Danny ever post we also gave a talk at the convention for AIA. Did Danny ever post? We did that as a separate podcast too, right?
I think we did.
So there's a couple that he could probably link to, I would imagine, if you want to dive a little bit more into ADU stuff.
Yeah. And quite frankly, a lot of what we discussed and the benefits and negatives are covered as why the city made this initiative. Yeah. But
somebody finally woke up and saw the light, and saw the writing on the wall, and finally there's actions that are being taken.
And politics takes time in some cases, but it was unanimous. It was all 9 votes voted for this. Paul, do you want to talk about a little bit what this means exactly for Columbus, Ohio?
Essentially, even if you go on Columbus's website, they have an announcement that's up there. I think it's just under the Building and Zoning Services webpage where you can find some different announcements. They have a link to a PDF document that kind of goes over it. The number one thing they ask is what's the overall purpose of the code of the change, right? What exactly does this entail? Essentially, it allows for these ADU, accessory dwelling units, to be allowed in all residential and apartment residential districts. And it even allows this habitable space to be, connected, not directly connected to the dwelling unit that's there. So, similar to the configurations we've talked through before. But basically, it defines all these new terms and new sections within the development standards, and they even added some stuff related to sheds, utility enclosures, fences, other stuff. But primarily, the big thing is that it's allowed and permitted in all of these districts, where previously it was just so painful and arduous to get anything done related to ADUs. Sometimes we would always tell clients it's kind of that don't hold your breath conversation.
Right.
We can't guarantee it.
Yeah, we can't make any promises.
Yeah.
And
sometimes it wouldn't go through. Luckily, fortunately, the ones we've worked on, we've been fortunate. Everything has passed. The couple that we've done.
I do remember one of our first ones that we did back in the day. It took 6 months to get approval?
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was with the Victorian Village Commission too.
So to simplify this, I think this is going to be realized mostly in carriage houses, in that format, to where we're going to see an apartment above a garage at a single family residence. I think that's what we're going to see the majority of in places like this. There's certainly going to be, you can have a separate structure that can be an office for somebody, but I think it's going to be in the form. We're still going to have like some restrictions. We're just going to have to follow some rules.
Yeah.
And on a small city lot, the most efficient and effective way to go about adding a second residence to a single family home is putting an apartment above a garage.
Well, and I know I've said this before too, but also don't forget, the historic commissions are still at play here. So unfortunately, even though this ordinance change to the regulations here is for all of these zoning districts that are residential or apartment residential districts, okay, but if you're in the Victorian Village, you still have to go through that commission.
Yeah.
So unfortunately yes, it's allowed, but at the same time, there's still going to be red tape and hoops to jump through because of those commissions. And I think Danny was saying something about they might even be like stripping back some of their powers.
Yes.
I find that hard to believe that they're going to remove, because you have to preserve to a certain extent the character of the neighborhood,
And I think there's going to be a compromise like there always is in politics and policy, but if you don't have an existing garage in one of these historical districts, I think it's going to be easier to propose a new structure
10 times easier,
and then have it just accommodate and look to be that it blends with the landscape, it's made of appropriate material, etc. Right? So we are preserving that look, but we're also not destroying historical buildings in the process. So I think those policies are in place to protect actual historic buildings.
Yeah.
And
I think you're right. If it's something that's existing, it might be a little more challenging to work within that construct, right? That's there. But if it's something new, if the back of your lot, there's nothing there and you're adding this carriage house completely new, ground up, then yeah, it's going to be a lot easier to get it through.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to go into like all the positive and negatives of having a carriage house on your property, but I think this is going to open the door to a lot of different folks creating additional income, even just getting their foot in the door to be homeowners. Like what a great way to offset your mortgage expenses by having a secondary income from your property by being able to rent out that space.
I mean, we've touched on it in some of the other episodes, like the positives and negatives to it, right? So I don't think we need to like revisit that necessarily. But I mean, like it's interesting because the second question on here is, why is the code change needed? And the city entered this reply. And again, this is coming directly from the Department of Building and Zoning Services, right? Shannon Pine is the drafter of this. And she states here, the answer to that question is, it's necessary, right? She uses the word necessary. And it's in response to the housing crisis to allow for more housing units. And obviously, you're talking about a single unit on a lot, right, that's owned by most likely an individual. Well, so we're not talking large numbers, but it's still front and center of the city's mind that they're still trying to address the housing crisis.
Well, this is also it's a different strategy too, because you can't just rely on developers to create apartment houses for more housing. That serves a specific type of demographic, right? Yeah. And now this is actually serving.
And it's those individuals, it's a business, it's a corporation that's doing the development, developers that are, and you're talking like multi-million-dollar projects that are hundreds of housing units, and it's serving a large community.
But it's serving a different community, in my opinion. And it takes a lot more time, right?
Yeah.
This is a way for, you can take action now on this and provide additional housing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I kind of like the way you're thinking about it too. It's like an attack. This housing crisis, they're attacking it on all fronts. This is obviously geared more towards like a single family, homeowner that would add a unit, and it's just a single unit and it's just them that owns it. It's on the small side.
And dare I say this also, even though this is strictly residential,
but it makes an impact,
yeah. And even though this is strictly residential, it also impacts the commercial side a little bit, because what about you and I who are looking to buy an office building? Some people, whether they can afford it or not, and prices in Columbus are a little unpredictable at the moment, going up. And And I guess if I had the choice and the option to build an ADU on my property, I could use that as an office instead. So there are going to be some small business owners that can still create that space and use it for whatever they like.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. Yes, 100%. Obviously, the zoned in, I know we kind of talked before, we wouldn't mention it, but when they did the corridors, that rezoning opened up the ability for something that you just mentioned, where you could have a business that's running and operating like an office, right? And then they add like a residential unit on that same lot. This, I don't know, because it's specific to residential districts. So we would have to like buy a residential lot where the ADU is allowed, and then like split the lot and rezone the one side so we can have our office there. And then it'd be a little more complicated.
Well, for home offices, it at least alleviates that potential need on the commercial side.
I think thinking to the single family homeowner, yes, if it's some situation like that, 100%.
So in actual real time and real effects, we're starting to work on a new ADU project as we speak, a carriage house, as a matter of fact, in the Clintonville area.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that process goes. Like now that some of these policies are now in effect, essentially.
Well, let's break it, at least let's break it down to what we're going to assume it's going to be like, rather than what it was before. Before, we would have had to start with requesting a variance and in some cases multiple variances, even to be allowed to do this. Now we can, and then sometimes that process, again, as we mentioned, takes months. Now we can fast track to literally designing the structure and going straight to zoning for approval without having to get all these additional.
I mean, honestly, so the way Columbus works, you have zoning and building kind of together when you do your submission. So we'll have a set of drawings that will be given to the contractor to build from and given to the building department to issue a permit. And obviously building and zoning are connected. So it's like everything gets done all simultaneously. It's not this like initial pre-design phase and then submit for a variance and then have back and forth and wait. Literally, it's going to be, we just produce the drawings, we jump right into the deep end, right? Start swimming and then submit the set for everything.
So hypothetically,
so that's how it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how it should be. So hypothetically, if we're saving time, potentially months here now, it's going to be a standard normal process as we do any other addition or renovation to a property. But what about cost? What do you think? What would you estimate in cost savings?
I mean, you're like having like literally half of what you would pay us before. Maybe that's a bad thing for us.
No, I think it's a great thing because we're going to do a lot more of those projects now.
It would be good if we do more of them, but in terms of what we're actually working on, it eliminates that whole upfront piece. So there's no need for the client to pay for those services because we don't need to provide those services anymore.
Yeah, if anything, I think this is going to help design firms because we would have spent that time getting permission to build these. Now we can take that time and literally do another project in its place.
True. I mean, the other thing is too, you're pretty much guaranteed to have this project be greenlit, right? This potentially before the city could come back and say, no, we don't like this or that. And you have to change it, or no, just outright, no, we're not doing it here for whatever reason. And listen, so, I mean, like that was always on the table before.
Yeah. And people now are going to be much more comfortable investing some money to go down this road because
so maybe it will lead to more projects because now people know that they don't have to even have this possibility of a denial. It's allowed. And so maybe that barrier removed will all of a sudden open the door a little bit more to people saying, yeah, let's do this investment.
100%.
Yeah. You think people are more adverse to like risk stuff like that?
I think that when someone doesn't understand what this process actually looks like and may not even have the time to go down that rabbit hole to learn what that process is through a professional like us, then they're less likely to take action, right? And now that barrier has been removed, they're going to be like, okay, this is not impossible. This is something that's very likely to happen. I can do this. Let's see what the steps are now. And we're going to be able to say, hey, this is like a normal renovation, like you do a kitchen renovation. Yeah. With a few, with a couple nuances.
No, you're right. I mean, essentially it's, you said very likely, but yeah, I would say it's basically guaranteed, right? It's a guaranteed thing. So,
and again, I think the repercussions for that will help a number of different types of people. It'll help homeowners get into better neighborhoods by being able to afford a higher mortgage because they can offset that cost. It'll help young professionals who are shopping for a house. So now they can have a place to stay that's more affordable than renting out an entire house. They can rent a smaller place. If they don't like, not everybody. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of positive impact from this policy, not just for homeowners who are being able to now move to nicer neighborhoods and offset their mortgage with the rental income, but it's going to help folks who are shopping for homes, right? They don't have to rush in and make a decision right away now too. Sometimes you just want to live in the neighborhood that you're shopping in, and there's not always housing available for that, right? So then you have to rent out an entire house, which is more expensive, right? Well, what if I just want to get the feel of the neighborhood and there's not an apartment building in the area, right? And I don't want to stay at a hotel. Now you can actually stay in the neighborhood. You're not renting out a whole house. It's making that process easier.
Yeah, I've heard you say before that, not everybody is necessarily suited to live in an apartment unit or apartment, whatever district,
Sure.
building, an apartment building with multiple units.
And it's not even, it might just be where you're at in your life.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, I wanted to live in an apartment. Now I do not.
Yeah. Well, I was a little older, and even the condo I lived in Chicago, God bless my neighbors, but having your neighbors right there on top of you, I don't know. I'm past that at this point in my life.
Yeah.
So,
and that's perfectly fine. And again, if you were to get an ADU, maybe you still don't want to have somebody rent out that space. However, guess what? You could use it as a home office, and it would be separate from your house. So there's just so many different applications we can use these structures for that's going to bring value to the market, to the homeowner, and just that versatility, right?
Yeah, 100%. So next topic.
Yes, I'm actually excited about this one. I'll be honest, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I am familiar with what it's being compared to.
Yeah. Well, and I just heard about this literally today. So it's a very fresh thing for me to even hear about.
The capital line. So tell us, Paul, in your words, what is this urban pathway project look like?
Well, again, it's very fresh to me, right? So basically it's an investment that Columbus is making to connect certain areas within the city. So it's only a couple mile pedestrian pathway project, and it's kind of like a loop, I guess. But basically it's an investment that they're connecting. What are the three areas? It's from the Arena District,
the Ohio State House area, right?
No, is it the Arena District by the State House?
Yeah.
And then it's the river that I always say the name wrong.
Scioto
Mile, right? So
Yep.
It's connecting that. And then it's one other area that it connects as well.
Franklinton Peninsula.
So basically it's in the heart of the downtown area there. And essentially it's a bicycle and walking path,
Yeah,
right?
and some of these paths already exist. They're just connecting these points and putting more investment to really lighting and landscaping. And I actually used to live over in Franklinton there, and the paths are great. The views of the city are amazing, and they do connect certain parts of the city if you got a bike, if you're running, that where you don't need to be on the roads, and even like shopping centers, right, to make these neighborhoods more walkable.
Yeah. I just don't necessarily like I know for you, when you heard about it and we were chatting about it before we started recording, you're like, oh, this reminds me of the High Line in New York.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
You know what, Paul? This reminds me of the High Line in New York City when I used to live there.
Yeah. The only issue, yeah, I agree with you, but everybody compares everything to the because the High Line's so successful, right? In New York itself, it's this own microcosm of New York.
The numbers are incredible. It's obnoxiously successful. Yes.
Yeah.
And here's why. A lot of pretty much everything that goes into Columbus or into New York City, you have that support because you have that local population.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to deter people from investing in Columbus. I think it's a great idea. I just don't think it's going to have the same success or impact as the High Line.
I think it's well, first of all, this is an initial step, right?
Yeah. They started construction last month.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be an additional draw, right? When you're trying to drive population growth in the inner city, you want to create all these different anchors that's going to attract people, and I think this is one amenity that's going to do that, right? I'll say this.
It's that investment lever again, right?
Exactly.
And for the city, it's the PPP lever that they're pulling, right? The public-private partnership. So it's like a win-win for everybody. And then it's a win for the city because it brings the investment without the city investing everything themselves,
I mean, so I moved to New York City in 2009. Been in Columbus about 8 years now. And I remember... while I lived in New York City, I started seeing there was a big push for pedestrian streets, like converting these pedestrian streets, making it more pedestrian friendly. That's
one of the things, honestly, about like Europe. One of the things I loved is they have these pedestrian zones that are dedicated.
It was wildly successful, and the High Line was just a part of that. And it really does give us the opportunity now to create a more organic, people-driven, like you can do more when all these streets aren't jam-packed with cars, right? There's stuff that can now, you have pop-ups, you have...
I mean, it's also just an amenity to get people out and to use, an outdoor space. When I was in Chicago, I mean, the lakefront trail and the amount of people on the lakefront trail, that public amenity and how many people... I would ride my bike into work sometimes because it would be the same time commitment whether I took a bus, I took a train, or I drove a car.
So much nicer than sitting in traffic.
Yeah, or I rode my bike and literally I'm just zipping by everybody that's sitting on Lakeshore Drive heading into downtown. They're stuck in traffic, barely moving, and I'm just riding my bike, getting my exercise, having a beautiful view, fresh air, and yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that. With all the apartment housing going up in the Franklinton Peninsula, now we have really easy and enjoyable access to downtown where you can bike into the city, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this is a great thing.
I mean, and don't get me wrong. Again, like I'm not trying to. I think this is a wonderful project. Hearing about it, it's a great investment that the city is making. They definitely have a big hairy goal though here. So they want to double the population in the downtown area. That's like one of their goals.
Well,
we'll see. I mean, but this could definitely help.
Well, here's the thing. We keep pushing the boundaries out, right? Columbus has doubled in the last decade, and now we need to densify. If we want to be, if we're going to make this work and not have the roads be overly crowded, we need to densify and have these pedestrian connections.
Yeah, and it can't be, it can't be like a city like LA where you're driving from neighborhood to neighborhood.
Exactly, with multiple downtowns, and it takes you 3 hours to get from one end to the other.
Yeah, to go from Santa Monica to where another area. Yeah, I mean, like, that city is on freaking. I don't know who was thinking what when they laid that place out.
I mean, I guess
reliance on the automobile. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm also a car guy and I love my cars. But like to design a city around solely the automobile, I just think was like, who was thinking what or smoking what when they came up with that?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, Paul, that's most of American cities.
Not all, but like Atlanta and LA jump out to me as bad examples. Like Columbus, we have our cars still and drive around, but it's not as bad as those places.
I think technology with self-driving cars and some other public forms of public transportation is going to help. But these days that infrastructure is big time money and takes sometimes decades.
By the way, have you seen the Running Man, that movie?
No.
You should watch it.
Okay.
Add it to your list to watch. But they have a take on like self-driving cars, and it's kind of like this dystopian future where people are like competing on game shows. Anyway, you'll have to watch it. But like there's a take on self-driving cars there that like I think is around the corner. So
do you want to share so not leave everyone hanging?
I mean, it's whatever. Like there's game shows that you compete on for money, and like there's a lot more poor people in the world, and like that's how they get these people to compete on these shows. So they have this wonderful selection committee.
Oh, I saw that advertised. Yeah.
And this specific show is called The Running Man, and it's people that try to escape hunters.
Yeah.
And the penalty is like the hunters can come and kill you. Right. But like every day you can get more and more money. So that's the whole premise of the movie. But in it, there's this self-driving car depiction that, again, like 10 years from now, within our lifetime, 100%, I could see that version of the self-driving car like existing.
Right.
So,
well, thanks so much for that insight, Paul.
sorry. It's just you triggered me with the self-driving thing.
Yeah, I like to trigger you.
Yeah.
Any more insight on the Capitol line?
Again, yeah, I don't necessarily like the Highline comparison, but yeah, I think it's a great thing to see the city making an investment into a project like that.
So really the full loop is aimed for completion by the end of 2028.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, for a couple miles, you would think it's done faster, but
Actually, that's not so bad at all.
It's not terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Public art, performance spaces, bike lanes, pedestrian plazas, street parking. Oh, remove street parking. I gotcha. Okay. And basically dedicating this corridor for people.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to act as a catalyst to other investment, though.
Yeah, I think we're going to see corporations now starting to headquarter where there's more foot traffic. They're going to want to be where there's more people to get eyes on that. It's also just a nice place if you do have a work environment. Let's get out of the office, take a breather, go and get out in the world where there's things to do, and not just where we have to get into a car to go somewhere, right?
Yeah. My weather update. So I like the outside. I like the sun. That's why I was doing the weather update.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. All right, we can move on to something else. More investment stuff, though, right?
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about Honda made a big play here this past few weeks. The Honda and the LG deal. This is part of a bigger investment picture.
I mean, it goes back to why you came to Columbus in the first place.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you saw the writing on the wall that investment is really ratcheting up here, and that there's a tremendous amount of growth potential.
So this is directly related to the Intel project in Johnstown area.
Well, no, two separate things: Intel and Honda.
Yeah.
But the Honda has a battery plant where in December. At the end of December, they announced the deal that basically they're buying out LG from it. Intel is still Intel. That's a separate whole, which I don't even think, when you came here, and that wasn't on the table either.
No.
So I don't know if you're like a shaman or something.
Everywhere I go, good things happen.
You
Paul.
got some kind of like foresight.
Yeah. I'll let you know where I'm heading in the next few years, but right now Columbus is too hot to go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And again, like when you came here, you didn't know about that stuff, but yeah, like Intel alone would have been worth coming to Columbus.
Oh yeah. So there are still farmers who are hanging onto their property in the area, but I mean, it's for sale, and they're selling, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a couple of acres for fields.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's wild to me. And it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I mean, even here, it's like, again, you just drive around and you see all these changes. They're installing all these, I don't know if you saw the guys working, like as you came up.
Yep.
They're installing fiber connectivity internet stuff underground, like in all of Delaware County. I mean, like so like all around me, everywhere I drive within like 20 minutes in Delaware, they're installing these freaking underground cables.
So for everyone, Delaware's just in close proximity, right?
Just north of Columbus. Yeah.
But wasn't it the fastest growing county in Ohio?
It might still be.
Okay.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, like obviously this Honda LG deal that just happened, again, it's within the region, within the Columbus area.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the amount of growth in Columbus, around Columbus, the one talk we heard at Coin, they were talking about all the counties that touch Franklin County.
Yeah.
Right. Because Columbus is basically in Franklin County. And like every county that touches Franklin County all around, so it's like 11 to whatever, even like some of the counties that touch other counties that are touching Franklin, like the whole region here, the central region of Ohio is like just undergoing this boom in investment.
Well, there's no boundaries. There's no physical or state boundaries in central Ohio. So you have this opportunity and this urban sprawl that's starting to happen here.
Yeah. I mean, like, I was surprised. I mean, like, it's billions of dollars, so it's like Honda wants basically more direct control over this battery production plant that they're setting up and building. And they announced it in December, and the deal is going to close here in February, So you're talking about the Intel project, which is billions of dollars as well, investment. Granted, they've delayed the timeline on when that's going to open up and start running. I think originally it was supposed to start like this year, and they've pushed it out a couple of years.
Yep.
But yeah, to hear that Honda's investing another few $1 billion into buying out LG so that they can have direct control over their battery plant that they're building next to Columbus.
And I think this whole Silicon Heartland labeling is really now kind of taking effect. I mean, this is everyone's finally talking about it, and headquarters. Multiple companies continue to move here to headquarter here.
Yeah, it's crazy that so have you watched any videos on how they actually make some of this technology related stuff?
It's like a lab. It's like a vacuum lab with all these sealed rooms and stuff. Right?
Yeah, I'll have to send you this link. There's a YouTuber that I got access to the plant over in, I think it's well, we'll bleep that. I think it's in Denmark, right? Or in the Netherlands, right? Like it's only one company that makes these machines, and yeah, it's like this otherworldly, like clean room industrial level machine to print these chips so small. Yeah. There's even the Moore's law, where they were basically projecting out like every so often, like the technology doubles, right? And there's like a linear path. And until recently, they're like, that's in trouble. We're not going to be able to make the next jump in technology.
Right.
And even like with the AI boom and all that's going on, and the fact that they have made that jump now with these new machines. But I mean, like, it's like the size of a freaking house, this machine, to produce these chips.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we're seeing a lot of these clean rooms, these sealed environments, not just on the technology side, but even for like the marijuana, like for, these, we're designing some dispensaries and consulting on warehousing where this stuff is grown for marijuana, now that that's legal in Ohio. And like same principle, like all these spaces where we're producing these high quality plants or technologies. It's amazing how architecture really comes into play and what we have to spec out in terms of what I guess.
And that's like another level of specialty. That's like, even like Nino, he's worked on these hospital projects that are like insane. Like some of the whatever machines that go in for like radiation or cancer treatments and stuff like that, and the walls they have to build are
4 feet thick.
Yeah, a couple feet thick of like concrete, and yeah, it's just like insane that goes into those projects. And then you think about some of these other projects. Yeah, so I don't blame Intel for delaying stuff. I mean, like I'm sure the standard that they're building to is just like on a level that's like crazy to us. So, but yeah, I'll have to send you that link to so you can watch some of the production stuff. So
yeah, maybe we can put it in the show notes. Are we moving on?
Yeah, final thing. I mean, like the investment stuff is interesting, but again, it's just great to hear that billions of dollars are being invested in the region, right? Yep. Additional. So
all the more reason why you should live, work, and invest in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
So what's this last topic we have?
I thought we were going to talk about this before the last thing, but I guess this is a good one to close up on. So we talked about like the smaller side of the housing crisis, right, where people are producing the units within the area, and how like the ADU policy is kind of a driver there. This is kind of more for like the multifamily. Think like a development that has 100 units in it, like your building in Grandview. Mm-hmm. You bought that when you moved here to Columbus, right?
Yeah. Fourplex.
Okay, fourplex. What was around that building at that time?
Not a whole lot. It was very neighborhoody. It's still kind of neighborhoody, but now of course we have the corridor there with lots of multifamily. Yeah.
But like you would come down off of the road that it's on, and you would turn. I don't know what road you turn, left or right. You turn left to go down to the Giant Eagle that was like down there. There was a store that was down there.
Yeah, 3rd Avenue.
Yeah. So now you drive from the fourplex there, that building that you originally bought down the street, and it was like vacant lots before. Nothing.
Yeah. Now there's multiple buildings and hundreds of apartment units.
Yeah. I drove by there the other day, and I was like,
"Oh, there's an Aldi. Have you been there? I love. It's nice. It's a nice new Aldi, and
yeah. I didn't. Well, I know they're continuing with the commercial side of things, but like, the buildings that are going up for residential units is insane.
Yeah, my gym's over there.
Yeah. So to say all that, this last quarter 4 of 2025, Columbus actually hit a record of housing units, basically apartment units that were delivered. And so, I mean, like, there's definitely been a pretty big response to people, coming and building these units out. Again, like I point to your area in Grandview, like the amount of development that's occurred over there, because before, even when I first came, it was vacant lots. Just empty fields, and now it's freaking multi-story apartment buildings with hundreds of units.
It's not just apartments. I mean, that whole Grandview Yard area has single-family homes and everything too. So it's commercial spaces
and townhomes and commercial spaces and businesses and everything. Even we bid on a project recently that was just outside of Columbus that was like 100-unit multifamily project as well, right? So that, again, like there's definitely still interest in delivering all this stuff, but this supply wave has really ramped up recently.
Yeah, approximately 9,100 new units delivered. That's a 26% increase over the previous year, which also kind of results in the highest vacancy spike that we've had. To be fair, these units are not like while they're certainly more affordable than whole houses, they still are nicer, more on the luxury end apartments that have amenities like gyms. Some have pools. Like, these are beautiful buildings.
Yeah. I think it's geared more towards, not our generation. I think, like I said, we're past that point of living in places like that, but definitely a younger generation is moving into these buildings.
Hey, I know some folks who are my age who are professionals with a beautiful city skyline view, who are living in the Franklin Peninsula in those new rises. So, and they have, those spaces are beautiful, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. We took a tour of that building. So, which was incredible to see some of the views, and you're right there in like the heart of everything. Yeah. I know that there's two main areas. So one of them is Delaware County, where like almost half of the projects have been completed. And then the other area is like in the downtown, like Franklinton, like we just talked about, and near Upper Arlington. Yep. So those are like the hot spots where all these units that have come online recently are basically located. And I mean, it makes sense.
Sure. You have a lot of these big $1 million homes, and there's not enough apartments to support. Where I still want to live in this neighborhood, but I don't want to buy a large house. This is a great option for me,
Yeah. I think the only downside to a lot of these units coming online recently is, rent growth has kind of stagnated a tiny bit, just because, again, you have so much as a renter at this point in time. Like today, if I were to go out and rent something, I have choice of quite a bit, of places to go.
And listen, it can't go up aggressively forever. That's not healthy either. So, in the larger picture of things, I think it's good to have some stability and slow, consistent growth rather than ups and downs in predictable markets.
Yeah. Well, people are still betting. Again, we just talked about Honda and LG, that announcement, right? I think investors are still betting that over the next 24 months or a couple of years here, Columbus is still, even though we might have like this period where, we're delivering quite a few housing units, apartment units and options for people to live here. I still think a lot of investors are looking towards the future and seeing that Columbus is still going to have another spike at some point.
100%. I was just on the phone. I didn't tell you about this, but I was just on the phone before I came here to record with an investor from New York City. And we hit it off, of course, because I gave him
I'm also from New York.
My mobile number, 917. And he's like, oh. And he, of course, has a property here that he's looking to fix up, and we're going to help him with that. So, I think this is still a very hot and exciting market for investors, for homeowners, for everybody.
Well, and I think, there's obviously different levels to all of this, right? There's, the high-end luxury stuff. There's stuff like in the middle of the road, and then there's your more budget-friendly places. I still think the budget-friendly places is really still moving pretty good. You don't think so?
So it depends on what you mean by budget. If you're talking about C-class properties, which are going to be your older, dated stock, I think that...
Like, there's not a ton of supply there.
Correct.
But there's still opportunities there for smaller individuals to make investments. These larger properties we're talking about, I think, are more like the mid to luxury, like the apartments you mentioned in Franklinton.
Correct.
What class is that? That's a luxury class.
I would say, A to B.
Yeah. So I think all these units that we're talking about coming online, it's geared towards a certain segment of the market.
Correct.
Right. And it's like, a lot of the people, like the guy from New York, you're saying we're potentially going to help him with, is it a project that needs fixing up?
He bought a duplex and he wants to.
So a 2-unit building.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's still going to be opportunities like that are strong across the board, where people are looking to make investments into whatever.
I think that there's still a lot of opportunity there.
Despite the record hitting apartment unit delivery for Q4 of 2025. Right.
And to be fair, like, it really depends on the strategy, whether some people are still looking to buy a house, right? And there's a lot of young people who don't mind living in one side of a duplex, who own the building and can I'm doing air quotes, house hack, and live on one side while they rent out the other side to offset their cost. So I think people are, humans are getting savvy on how they want to live and thrive in the places they want to live, right? So they're considering all their housing options. And I think this just gives them a little more flexibility. And the fact that it's easily to get educated on these things now just makes I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, the takeaway is, people are moving here still.
Yeah.
It's still a growing market. And I think, you look at like historical averages of people coming into the area, and I still think we're on this upward trend. And even though we have a lot of these units coming online and we might have a little more choices for renters and so forth, I mean, there's still strong demand that's there,
Yeah.
So even the episode we had with John Steyer, right? He was talking about, certain markets that he's involved with, and like how it's not necessarily like during COVID, it was like the nurses that were going around, but now it's more like the tradespeople that are moving around. So I mean, like, even though something shifted to a slightly different category of people, he still sees demand in the things that he's doing. Yeah. So it was like a similar type of talking point that he was making, related to the things that he's working with.
Yeah. And me personally, I've seen a lot of people who, well, they don't want to just jump into the first house that they see. So they want to rent in these neighborhoods. Right. So that's why I'm like, I think there's value in being able to rent a nicer place in a nicer neighborhood where you're potentially going to buy. So that gives you, so you're not just rushing into buying the first thing that's on your plate. I don't, and listen, the market constantly shifts. Sometimes you do need to be aggressive, but at the same time, a little prudence doesn't hurt if you're picking out your forever home or your dream home, or at least like for a while, your next home. Yeah. Right.
I mean, and honestly, aside from people moving, businesses are moving here too. The client we just started working on the addition for the medical clinic, they're originally from Southern Ohio, right? So connection back to my Cincinnati days, but they were based down in there, and they have family up here in the Columbus area, and they're relocating their business and operations to the Columbus area. So they're opening a new facility here in Columbus that we're working on. So it's not just people making a jump to the Columbus area or in region. I mean, businesses are coming as well, like smaller businesses, larger businesses. I mean, again, we talked about the crazy $1 billion LG buyout that Honda's making, but like even smaller businesses, we're helping, people open clinics and facilities here because they're relocating to this area.
Sure. And maybe it's just because it's what I'm seeing, and it's the universe I live in, but there's a surge of small businesses, right? And folks who are still working from home or opening these small commercial spaces and revitalizing these downtown street fronts. And like, there's a lot of cool, exciting things happening. So,
yeah. Although I was sad to hear that, Brewdog. I don't understand the choice. I don't understand why those places were so busy, but I think you're right. You mentioned the leases, right?
Leases are getting more expensive in Columbus.
I think they made a judgment based on probably the fact they were leasing the space, and they just couldn't justify paying whatever new rate that they were being asked to pay.
Yeah.
And that's why for those, they're still here. It's not like they went under or something. They still have other locations in the area. Who knows? Maybe they'll invest in buying a property and opening something up in a completely different area, but they closed 2 of their locations in Columbus.
And dare I say, and we don't need to go down this rabbit hole too far, but a lot of my colleagues and friends are drinking a lot less. I don't know if that's a factor, but
no, go talk to my friend Joe. Dude, he has this app that tracks every beer he's ever drank at an institute, like anywhere he goes, he opens this app and he can like record the date and what it was and the time, and he can like take notes on like what his thoughts are on the taste and the quality, and catalog all of these. Oh, for this IPA, like this one was the best over here in Illinois, and I had this great lager that was over in London, and it like he literally has thousands of these entries, and every time he goes to like a microbrewery, he basically logs his beer. So there's people like that are very dedicated.
Okay, fair enough. And maybe it takes a couple more decades, like smoking did, to see a downturn. But I guess there are still smokers.
I think you hit it on the head with the lease thing. I mean, they didn't give a reason. I just saw the announcement a day or two ago that they were closing these locations.
I really like the Franklinton one. That was a great location. But look at what happened.
But I think the amount of investment in that area. Yeah. How long have they been there, and when did they get in?
Years. When I was
before all of that development, all that investment.
I lived in an apartment on one of the first luxury buildings out there. Yeah. I was like, and it was so cheap to live out there. Yeah. And so we did for a year just because it made sense when we were renovating some of our projects and just wanted a nice space to go home to.
And that was before your home you're in now, and that was before that was after the RV.
It was before COVID.
You didn't want to go back to the RV.
No, we weren't going to do that. Yeah. But I mean, this isn't a place where it was an art district, right? Where we had rents were so low for what it was as a whole, and now hundreds and hundreds of apartments are literally right across the street and around that area. All that whole area has been developed.
Yeah. I think you're right 100% about, I didn't even think about it, but I think the price of the cost to run in that location just jumped up too high for them to justify it.
I bet it more than tripled, if I had to guess.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, we're not a part of those conversations, but I think your theory is close to home.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's a good spot. We've, I think, covered everything.
Yeah, I think we just got to bleep your little blooper that you had there. You got really comfortable chatting here.
Yeah, sorry.
And no, you're good. And with that, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
This has been the ArcFluence Podcast. As always, you can get more information and additional content on arcfluence.com. Please subscribe on the platform of your choice and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you.